Hello. Today I want to talk about the Duolingo English test, and I want to focus on a particular type of writing prompt. The question I want to talk about is the one that asks you to respond to a prompt in 50 words or more, and you're given 5 minutes to answer this question. So, first of all, I will give you some of my tips, and then we will actually take a look at a question and we'll talk about how I would approach it. So first of all, let's look at tips. The first tip I have for you, and this tip relates to any time you have to write anything, whether it's for an English test or a test in your history class, anything. Make sure you are answering the question. That sounds ridiculous, but I have graded so many tests where students wrote really long answers. None of it had any direct relationship to the question. So make sure you're answering the question. When we look at the question at the end, I will show you my tip for making sure that you're always answering the question. Next, let's talk about grammar. This is graded by a computer, and so it's going to look for grammar mistakes. You want to make sure that you use structures that you understand how to use. If you think, I'm going to write some complex sentences, make sure you're writing sentence types that you're familiar with. If you write a complex sentence that does not make sense, the computer is going to count points off. However, if you can use complex structures and you make a few mistakes, it's better to try to use the complex structure than to keep simple structures throughout. So try to use some complex structures that you're familiar with. Now let's talk about word choice. Word choice is important. You want to make sure you use words that you know, but you also want to use words that are not used in daily conversational English. If you can use any less common English words, any words related to a particular field of study or academic words, these are going to get you some points and raise your score. Let's talk about variety. Synonyms. That's very useful for this type of test. If you repeat the same word over and over, the computer is going to recognize that, and that's going to lower your score a little bit. My advice is write your paragraph and don't worry about the words, the variety in the words at this point. You can go back before you submit and read what you've written. And if you can think of some synonyms for words that you notice that you have repeated, you can add those in at that time. The first most important point is to make sure you can get through your paragraph. Allow some time if you can to go back and check and fix any grammar mistakes, add synonyms, polish it up a little bit. Now, the last point I want to talk about is fluency. It's very important that you can reach that 50-word minimum. So that should be your focus first as far as fluency. When you get to that 50-word minimum, you can take a look at your time. If you're doing very well on time and you have a couple of minutes, you can write more. But if you're struggling to make that 50-word minimum, focus there first. Now, if you have extra time and you have more to say that is on topic, you can say more. But don't go off topic just to add more words. You want your paragraph to be concise. You have 50 words and 5 minutes. Focus on that question, make that question clear, and make all of your sentences related to that topic. Let's take a look at an actual question from the test. This came from the Duolingo English test website, and it was on one of their practice tests. So let's read the question. Films can tell us a lot about the country where they were made. What have you learned about another country from watching its movies? So it wants to know what was learned about another country from its movies. So my approach is I am going to write a paragraph. I need a topic sentence, body sentences, and a concluding statement. So to write that topic sentence and make sure that I am on topic, I am going to reconstruct this question as a statement. All right. So the question is, what have you learned about another country? So I am going to say, I have learned. Now this is the what. What learned? I have learned about. I'm going to choose the language because that's something that it's on the top of my head. Okay, so there's my topic sentence. I have learned about the language of another country from watching its movies. Now, you could pick something else. You can think about elements of culture and figure out which one you know the most about or that you feel that you can speak the most about. Remember, this is not a test on a country's culture, it's a language test. So if you put something and your information is wrong, that's not what this computer program is looking for. It's not going to check your facts. It's going to check your language. So you can brainstorm quickly a list of cultural topics. You can think about that. I'm choosing language. And so I have my topic sentence, and I need now to think of body sentences. So, what did I learn about languages from watching movies? Personally, I can't remember a single movie that exists in the world when I'm in a situation that I have to think quickly. So I am going to just think, okay, something unique to a country and its language is slang. So I'm going to make a body sentence about slang, maybe slang and idioms. So my approach then is going to be I'm going to write my topic sentence. Then I'm going to write a sentence about slang and idioms. I need to think of something else to say. Maybe I'll say conversations people enjoy or topics people talk about. So that's very cultural. So in the United States, people try to avoid politics, but in some countries, people love talking about politics. So I may pick that. And then I'm going to have to come up with a conclusion that I'm going to write. Um, I may say, watching the films, because I've already said movies and now I want to choose something else. Watching the films from other countries has taught me a lot about language and has better prepared me to spend time and get to know the people of that country. So the approach would be come up with a topic sentence. Come up with one or 2 points that you want to talk about in the body sentence. And then for your final sentence, you want to restate your topic sentence. You're going to remind us that we talked about what we have learned from watching movies about a country. So put that together in a nice little package. Now, once you have written it and you see that you have written 50 words, now you can go back and reread what you've written and see if you have written the same word multiple times. And if so, what can you change? If I look at this paragraph, I can imagine that we're going to say country a couple of times. So maybe another word for country could be nation. Films, movies. What is another word for films or movies? Motion pictures. Another word for to watch something. You could say to view something. You only need to worry about this if you have time at the end. So once you've written your paragraph, go back in, look at it, see if you can think of synonyms. And this is where you'll also check your grammar. And if you see that you've written the same pattern over and over, you can try to change your sentence patterns at that time too. The most important thing is to have your very clear topic that's answering the question. Get the bulk of that written and go back and check yourself.